Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Awakening Ways Spiritual Community. I'm Dr. Frank Smollin. Dr. Terry and I want to welcome you. Awakening Ways is a New Thought spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. We're a community that believes in that golden thread of truth and love that winds its way through all great spiritual traditions, that thread of mysticism that truly tells us and awakens us to the knowledge that we are one with the divine, that all that it is, we are, and all that we are, it is. It is that wonderful place within us where the entire universe opens up and we recognize that everything, every living being, every sentient being is God having that unique experience. That means that prayer is answered from the consciousness that we speak it. If we speak it fully from that consciousness of our own divinity, then that prayer is answered divinely. Here at Awakening Ways, we try to help you to awaken to your own divinity in many different ways. We do it through Sunday gatherings like this, through wonderful music, through uplifting talks, ordinarily in ordinary times, and we're rapidly coming back to those. We do it through classes, through meditations. Of course, we do one-to-one counseling and prayer. Prayer is very important to us in so many ways. So we try in every way we can to create a community here in which all of us can awaken to that divinity within us. All of us came here by a different path. Some of us got here through a traditional Christian path. Some of us got here through a less traditional path, but all of us got here. Today, we sit in this place. We sit in this consciousness of oneness, in this consciousness of community. Whatever path you took to get here, whatever path when you take when you leave, for right now, for this divine moment, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. I'd like for you to join me, if you will, in a moment of silence, in a moment of invocation, as we move into that place of opening to the divine within us, ready for those beautiful words of Dr. Terry. As we come together on this beautiful Mother's Day, we're reminded that the creator of all, the mother of all, is the universe itself. It is that consciousness of oneness that is in and as all living things. It is love, it is compassion, it is all of the divine, feminine, nurturing qualities. It is God, Goddess, by whatever name we choose. It is in us, it is us. I know that that is my truth. I know that it is the truth for each and every one of us here this morning. And I know that as Dr. Terry speaks, she speaks from that pure, open soul, channeling and always speaking the truth of the divine. I know that as our musicians perform this morning, they perform from that clear, higher resonance, that higher harmony of the divine. And I know that as we all come together this morning, we are community. We come together in this divine community where we are all one. We are so blessed. I give thanks. I give thanks for Dr. Terry. I give thanks for our musicians and for all who have joined us this morning. And especially I give thanks for the oneness that we all are. And so it is. Amen.
We can change the world. Use the power of spirit. We can go within. Use the power within us. Peaceful planet. Peaceful people. Peaceful spirit. We hold the power. I can change my life. I know the power within me. I can go within and use the power of spirit. Peaceful planet. Peaceful people. Peaceful spirit. I hold the power. I can change my thoughts and pour the power within me. I can go within. I know the power of spirit. Peaceful planet. Peaceful people. Powerful spirit.
Namaste. The light and love of the divine in me honors and greets the light and love of the divine in each and every one of you here this morning. Good morning and happy Mother's Day. Before I get going, I wanted to share with you that we have something we'd like to share with you all at the end of the gathering here. So if you usually click off before the announcements, if you could just hang around for a bit there today so that we can share that with you, we'd appreciate it. So it's Mother's Day. In an effort to be truthful and transparent, I want to share with you that this is actually a little known truth, but it is a truth that if you were to take a poll of ministers from all denominations and you ask them what sermon they probably would most prefer to avoid, hands down, the winner would be Mother's Day. Mother's Day. And that sounds odd because it seems like it would be such a great opportunity to talk about love and children and happiness. Well, for some people, that's true. That's true. But truthfully, I have to tread lightly on this day. And so you can see me, I'm kind of squirming here because it's Mother's Day. I have to tread lightly because the truth is that for some people, Mother's Day is a day of happiness and joy and celebration. For others, it's a day of sadness. It's a day of grief. It's a day of guilt and remorse. Um, we didn't all have wonderful moms, and we didn't all have wonderful childhoods, and Mother's Day has the tendency to bring this up for people. And then there are those who chose, or did not choose to not have children at all, and so it's a painful day. You get the idea, right? So it's like a minefield that we all, as ministers, kind of walk through very carefully. But I want to honor each and every person who is here. Whatever feelings you have on this day, those feelings are good, and they're right, and they're appropriate, and they're yours. So I just want to honor everybody wherever they are. And I also always like to share this on Mother's Day, and that is that the truth of it is that no matter what your relationship was with your parents, with your mother, what it was, what it is, it doesn't matter what your relationship was or is with your children. It doesn't matter what your relationship is with yourself around this whole idea of being a mother or not being a mother, or the men out in the community who are fathers and not mothers today. We could not be here if we did not have a mother. We all had mothers, whatever they looked like, whatever they sounded like, whatever kind of mother they were. We all had a mother. For each of us, there was a woman who said yes to that child that was within her, and carried each and every one of us and nurtured each and every one of us in her womb for all that time. And then then she went through the pains of childbirth so that we could be born into this world, so that we could be here this morning hearing these words. And we all owe these women, this particular woman for each of us, a loving debt of gratitude for what she gave us. She gave us life. And so today we honor her willingness to say yes, and her willingness to be that sacred vessel for us, that sacred vessel that allowed us to be birthed onto this plane of existence right here and right now. So we honor her, we bless her, and we thank her this morning in uncountable ways. The other realization that I had it was several days ago. The realization I had was that in all the years that I've done these Mother's Day talks, I have never once told the story of Mother's Day. Do you all know the story of Mother's Day, the creation of Mother's Day, how it began? I think there are a lot of us that are not familiar with that story. And so I'd like to share that story with you this morning. I think you might be surprised. It's a very interesting story with interesting people. So it begins in 1819 when a woman by the name of Julia Ward was born. And she was born to a wealthy family in New York City. And at age 21, she married a man by the name of Samuel Gridley Howe. And he was a Boston physician. And like her family, he was wealthy. And I bring up this idea of wealth because as we move through this story of Mother's Day, her social status and her wealth come into play because they allowed her as a woman to do things that many women would have been unable to do had they not, had her social status or her wealth. So that plays a role in this. So her name now is Julia Ward Howe. And Julia and Samuel became part of the Transcendental Circle back in the 1800s. Okay, she was one of us, right? She belonged to the group when Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Thoreau were members of that group. They were also Samuel and Julia were also strongly influenced by a Unitarian Universalist minister by the name of Reverend Theodore Parker. And Reverend Parker was a fierce abolitionist. And so, you sense that her leanings are already starting to go in one direction. By the time the Civil War broke out, Julia and her husband Samuel were involved with tending the soldiers who were wounded out on the battlefields, actually. And they were part of what eventually became known as the Red Cross. So there they were, right at the beginning of that, with Samuel being a doctor and Julia at his side. They tended these war wounded. And while she was visiting a Union soldiers' encampment near Washington, she saw the Union soldiers preparing for battle. And she was so touched and she was so moved. She sat down and she wrote the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It was Julia Ward Howe that wrote those words. And so you can sense, if you just allow your mind to just get a brief remembrance of those words, you can sense and feel her connection to and her strong passion for the abolitionist movement. But here's the thing, as the war went on and she became more and more involved with taking care of the wounded soldiers who were wounded, not only physically, but emotionally and psychologically, they were extremely damaged, just like the veterans of our wars today. And as a result of working with these soldiers, she began to shift her passions a bit. And what she moved into was, rather than focusing just on being an abolitionist, she became a peace activist and a woman who was also passionate about women's suffrage. So this is a very strong, powerful woman, abolitionist, peace activist, a woman who was all about women's rights. And as she grew older, she focused more and more on the women. And she spent many years in her later years gathering women together for a purpose, for a goal. And that goal and that purpose was almost always revolving around the concept of peace, the concept of peace. And it was out of these experiences and out of her commitments and out of her passions that her version of Mother's Day came about. And this is kind of how it unfolded, that in 1870, there was an international peace conference that was being held in London, an international peace conference. So Julia Ward Howe had written this brief peace proclamation that she wanted to share at the conference. However, the conference organizers prevented her from doing so because, you know what I'm going to say, she was a woman. She was a woman. And so the general sentiment of the day was, we can't have a woman in here telling us how to make peace. That's just not her place. So the men went about their business of making peace in whatever way that they were going to do that. Julia, however, was not going to be swayed. And this is where her financial status and her social status really came into play, because what she did was she just went to London anyway, and she just rented a hall on her own. All right, she's our girl, right? She rented the hall, people came in, and doggone it, she just shared her peace proclamation anyway. Yay for her. And it is a beautiful thing. The language is a bit antiquated, but I think it's important that I share just a small portion of that peace proclamation as she wrote it. So listen to these words and remember that it was the language of the day. She said, "Arise, all women who have hearts. Our husbands will not come to us reeking of carnage for our applause. Our sons will not be taken from us to unlearn all we have taught them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will not have those of another country allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. In the name of womanhood and humanity, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women, without limit of nationality, may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient, and at the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, and the great and general interests of peace." Powerful, powerful words. Julia Ward Howe issued this proclamation on June 2nd in 1870, and she called for what she called an International Mother's Day of Peace. So this was the original name for Mother's Day, the International Mother's Day of Peace. And what she envisioned was an annual International Peace Festival, an annual International Peace Festival. Well, following the 1870 conference, the June 2nd date was celebrated in some fashion for a while in some places, especially here in America. Its sentiments, I think, are still held and still carried on Mother's Day in remote places. You just don't hear about it. But this was her idea, and this was her gift to us, this idea of a Mother's Day for international peace. Amazing. But the story of Mother's Day isn't over, because there is yet another woman and mother who is involved in the genesis and the evolution of Mother's Day as we experience it today. And that woman's name was Anna Jarvis. Anna Jarvis did not come from wealth. Anna Jarvis was a minister's wife. Yay. Anna Jarvis was a minister's wife who was from West Virginia. And she and her daughter, Anna Jarvis also, together worked tirelessly for years and years, going back and forth to Washington, talking to politicians, trying to get them to understand the importance of honoring the mothers of the country for all that they do. And lo and behold, they were able to have Mother's Day recognized as a national holiday in 1907. Now, I'd like to add that the younger Anna Jarvis was not pleased as time went on with the unfoldment of how Mother's Day became commercialized. That was not the idea at all. And I'll share with you this statement that she made. She made her feelings very clear when she said, she especially did not appreciate Mother's Day cards. And her comment about the cards was that they were a poor excuse for the letter you are too lazy to write. Okay, I hear moms saying that right now, just right now. And oh, Hallmark, I'm so sorry, but take a back seat. So this is the evolution of Mother's Day, and isn't it fascinating? And doesn't it make you feel um, like this day has a deeper meaning somehow? I am just I'm just thrilled with the stories of Mother's Day, because what I realize is that most definitely the origin of Mother's Day came from a spiritual space. It came from a spiritual place, a deep spiritual place. It was born from a longing for peace, a peace among and between everyone. For Julia, seeing the suffering and the pain of the soldiers as a result of the wars and so on was unbearable and totally and completely unacceptable for her. She recognized that something needed to be done by someone. And so she became that someone. She got up and she moved forward and she shook the tree and she made things happen. She did that. She was really such an incredible example of what we call treat and shuffle your feet, pray and move forward. Uh, how to activate your faith. She didn't just talk about it. She didn't just complain about it. She actually did something about it. And she did it during a time when women, there was no power. Women had no perceptible power at all during that time. And yet she made it happen. And so this woman, this wife, and this mother was the living, breathing power and presence of the divine feminine in action. She was it, on its feet, speaking, moving, bringing these truths forth, not just nationally, but internationally. Her proclamation was a proclamation of love, was it not? It was a proclamation of love. We will not allow our men, our husbands, and our sons to go to war and basically be ruined by war, to be damaged by war in any way. She truly, truly walked the path of unconditional love. Just no question about it. And she was undaunted by any and all obstacles that anyone might try to throw in her path. She was a true heroine. And I think that for all of us, if you haven't heard that story before, you can, every Mother's Day, you can take a deep breath and remember these two women, Julia Ward Howe and Anna Jarvis, both of the Anna Jarvises, for their contributions to this day. And then we come to today, and well, I look out on our country and our world, and frankly, love seems to be on holiday. I'm not seeing a lot of love. Peace is hard to find. Kindness is sorely missing. Of course, we know this isn't universal. There are, of course, people who have embody all of these qualities. But in general, where are we? And where is that? Where is that love and that peace and that kindness? I say that I feel like I'm living on an emotional battlefield. an emotional battlefield. And I feel this every day. There are some days really when I feel like, if I hear something that comes into my conscious, I feel like I'm ready to do battle, or I'm ready, go call to arms. No, I don't want to be feeling like that. But that's what it feels like, because there is this undercurrent, and I've mentioned this before, of anger and rage and hate and fear. And it literally permeates the air that we breathe. How could it not? If people are feeling this way, and I'm not condemning or criticizing anyone, I'm just saying that this is the state of the world today, that this anger and fear and rage and hate is out in the air that we breathe, and we are all breathing it in and breathing it out again. As a planet, as a people, we are so very, 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 I can add a couple more varies, very, very out of balance. We simply have to find a way to balance out our masculine and feminine natures. We have to do that. We can't wait another day. We just can't. We can't. So right now, what is called for, I think we can all pretty much agree on this, that what's called for is a greater sense of the presence of the divine feminine. We need that energy of the divine feminine, and we need unconditional love of the divine mother. We need these. We need them now to begin to kind of rebalance what is so out of kilter. So it's so, really, if we were a ship, we would be teetering on the edge of sinking because it's weighted so far on one side. We need that resolve that says this: we will not let anger and fear and hate overtake us. Stand like Julia Ward Howe and make declarations for ourselves. We will stand right where we are, and we will stand for love and for peace and for kindness. That's what we stand for. That's what we represent. And then we need to believe, not just say the words, but to believe that the power of love to change things, to create miracles when it seems like things are so impossible. We need to believe that it is possible to create miracles for good through the power of the divine feminine and the divine mother. We need to begin to swing that pendulum in the other direction. And what I know is that power, that divine energy, is most certainly at work. It is at work. And I want to share a story with you that proves that this is true. Our youngest granddaughter, Tiffany, why Tiffany? Our youngest granddaughter, Brittany, became pregnant last August. And it was, it was, it just was kind of like a celebration, yet just that, you get that little worry and concern. Oh my, is she going to be able to be up for this? Is this going to be a safe pregnancy? All those little worries that you have. Both her mother and father, and then, Frank and I were just looking at each other and saying, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But the pregnancy seemed to be going along just fine until December the 19th. And on December the 19th, Brittany began to hemorrhage, and she had to be rushed to the hospital. And in all truth and honesty, there was a point in time where the doctors were not sure whether they could save the baby or whether they could save Brittany, whether they could save one or the other, or whether both of them were going to be lost. It was really, really touch and go for a while there. But undaunted, we are in this teaching, and so our soul support team went to work overtime. They were praying and knowing the truth. Brittany and her family and the church that they belong to, their spiritual community was praying and praying and praying. And little Brittany, she tries to embrace Christianity, and she does to a point, but she's called to another belief system, and that is that she sees angels. She sees angels. She has visions, and she senses energies. And so she has her own little spirituality, which I might add is extremely divinely feminine. She has that going for her as well. But so after several days of being in the hospital, they got the bleeding under control, but they were unwilling to release her from the hospital. In fact, it was looking like she was going to have to stay in the hospital for the duration of her pregnancy, which would have been, that would not have been fun. As it turned out, she was there for, I don't know, I think she was there for maybe 3 weeks or so. And they decided that it was okay. She seemed to be doing well enough that they could send her home. But she was told bed rest, stay in bed. And the idea was that she would stay resting in bed until the baby was strong enough and healthy enough, and she came, to term to where they would be able to perform a cesarean for the baby to come into the world. So she went home and she went to bed, but about a week later, the hemorrhaging began again. And off she went to the hospital again. But this time, something different happened. Yes, she was bleeding, but what the doctors discovered was the cause of her original bleeding was that the placenta was detaching from her body. Well, when that happens, there's not a whole lot that they can do. So they sent her home, and that's why she was to stay off of her feet. Well, when she went back into the hospital this time, what they discovered was that her placenta was reattaching itself. The doctors were stunned. They were so overjoyed. They were so pleased. They really couldn't figure out what happened. Well, all of us who were praying absolutely figured it out the moment we heard it, And it was all about prayer, right? Answered prayer. And what I know right here and now is that this was the work of Divine Mother. This was the divine feminine in action right there for Brittany, in the hospital, in her home, in her body. What eventually happened was that Brittany did go home. She carried her baby to term. And on, what is that date? Oh, I think it was April 18th. Little Elena Lene Vega came into the world. A little girl was born. And today, which I think is just the most awesome thing ever, today is Mother's Day, and Brittany gets to celebrate her first Mother's Day with her sweet, healthy little baby girl. All of this surrounded and supported as proof that You know, that divine feminine energy is at work. It is in action, and it can create miracles wherever we are. It is a powerful, powerful energy, and we need to be igniting that in our own selves. You know, our greatest desire for Brittany and little Elena is that they both live in a world that is filled with love and peace and kindness. That's the world we want them to be able to experience, especially little baby Elena. We want her to grow up knowing that, experiencing that. But in order for that to happen, we all have a responsibility to do what we can to provide experiences and energies that we can put out into the world and activities that we can do in the world that create that shift and that allows this world and this planet to become what it was always intended to be, a paradise, a paradise. So we all have things that we need to do, and I have some ideas. I have some ideas. Here's a way that we can begin to swing that pendulum, okay? Every time we choose not to engage or to disengage if we need to from any form of negativity, fear, or anger or hate, anytime we disengage from that, we need to understand that we are creating a sacred space for peace and love and beauty to take root and to grow. We literally create an opening for that to happen. We eliminate all of the negative. We create a space of positivity where all of the goodness can grow. Every time we stop and give thanks for all of the gifts life offers, all of the time, every time we do that, we are energizing that feminine principle and that feminine energy of gratitude within us. Every time we say thank you, we're consciously energizing that unconditional love. Every time we're able to recognize something or someone that in the past we have said that we hated or we disliked or we just couldn't stand, you know, anything that we held a negative energy around, every time we are able to look at that person or that thing and we are able to see it as holy in the moment, even if it's just for a short amount of time. Anytime we can make that shift in consciousness, we have literally set a negative energy free. We have set ancient energies free because all of that negativity builds up. And when we are able to free our own negativity, we free it out into the universe. What we do is not just related to who we are in our little world. Remember, when I breathe out, my air goes out to everyone. So too our emotions. They have power, the power to change. Every time we truly bless and forgive ourselves for anything, we've opened up the floodgates of love to just come rushing in, rushing in. I chose for self-forgiveness because although there are people we need to forgive, we seem to do better forgiving others than we do forgiving ourselves. And so to ignite that feminine energy, let's just really focus for a while on self-forgiveness and knowing that every time we do, those floodgates open floodgates of love. And every time we turn within to honor the Divine Mother, you know, religion and a lot of spirituality is definitely focused on male, male, the father, the son. And so as women, we have to kind of make that mental shift in our minds in order to go and shift the words to say sons of God, yes, 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 daughters of God, um, the mother, father God, which I so appreciate that Unity says, mother, father God, which is a beautiful balance of everything. So we recognize that the father is necessary, but so too the mother. And how often do we go in prayer to Divine Mother? When we open to the Divine Mother, that is not out there, but right in here, it is a different energy. It is a different energy that we feel. It is a different energy that we experience. And when we go and connect with that Divine Mother, I'm telling you, when you make that connection, what you feel, it's like feeling hugged from the inside. It's like feeling this warm, soft, dark hug right within you. Try it. You'll see what I'm saying is true. All of these ideas are ways that we can, it requires a conscious shift, because it does require us, since it is not common for us or familiar for us to focus on the divine feminine, it requires us to consciously focus on recharging that divine feminine energy, reigniting that energy. Let's call on Divine Mother. Let's recharge our energies around the feminine energy. And let's see if we can begin to make a shift. Subtle, big, it could happen tomorrow. Things could change. Divine Mother, never count her out. She is always, always there. And through the power of women as they speak their word, and through the power of men who have this wonderful sense of the balance between the male and the female energy, when they speak from that place, things happen. We need this now. On this Mother's Day, I call to you. This is a call for unconditional love, a call to make that shift in heart and mind into a conscious awareness of the divine feminine presence that is within you always. Call it forth. Let it be. And celebrate this day. Happy, happy Mother's Day, my beloveds. Namaste.
Blissfully, we're living in this field of dreams. Every day, in every way, we're living our life in spirit.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Jimmy and Karen. You guys were awesome this morning. Thanks to Ron for making all of this possible, flowing smoothly. And thanks to Terry for that wonderful Mother's Day talk that she did today. A couple of announcements, and I hope everybody's sticking around. Jan's class is going to be starting this coming Wednesday, and it will be, the link will go out on Tuesday. For those of you that have rolled in the class is now closed. On next week, Reverend John Carn from Atlanta, from the City of Light Church, New Thought Church in Atlanta, will be speaking to us. We're looking forward to John. He's a wonderful presence, and Terry and I both love his voice. Mm-hmm. And the following week, Delon will be speaking. No? Oh, May 30th, excuse me. May 30th, Delon will be speaking. And also on that day, there's going to be a virtual memorial service for David Burt. And that is going to start at 11:30 at the same bat channel that we're at now after the gathering. Say the date again. Again, that's going to be Sunday, May the 30th will be David's memorial. And we want to invite you all to join us. David was with our community literally from day one. The very first class we taught, Terry and I taught in our living room, or in our family room, actually. David was there. Also, we're going to be returning to the pavilion in June. It hasn't been decided yet whether that's going to be the first week in June or the middle of June, sometime in there. We will be returning to the pavilion. We will continue to do Zoom for all of you who prefer to do that. And then there's this. Last year, Terry and I seriously considered retiring. And because of COVID, we just decided that we were unable to do that. But now that we're returning to the pavilion and we're going to be able to have our gatherings live, and we're creating the structure, the infrastructure for live broadcast, live streaming of our Sunday gatherings, Terry and I are going to be retiring the last Sunday in June. I'm 79 years old, and we're tired. We're ready for some time off, some time to just relax and take it easy. So again, the 27th of June will be our last Sunday in the pulpit. The board has already got kind of the things rolling to set up a search committee to replace us in the pulpit.
Not that you could ever replace us.
Yes, on a permanent basis. And we'll be having guest speakers and practitioners and so forth speaking in the interim. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please don't try to share them here. Send them to the office, especially if you have questions or concerns. Send them to the office, email them to awakeningways@thegrid.net, and the board members will try to answer those questions for you. And so we have loved being here. You know, we started this community 13 years ago. Spirit said, do this here, do this now. And we did it. And now Spirit is saying, do this now. And we're doing this. So we'll be retiring as of the 27th of June. We love you all. This has been the greatest experience of my life, and I'm sure of Terry's as well. And we thank you for being with us for all this time.
We will be here every week until then, just so you know.
Right.
But we kind of wanted to let you know so that you could prepare. Change is not easy. Transition is not easy. But you have to you kind of have to put what is ready to go. What is it? Let whatever's ready to go go, and whatever's ready to come. That's the phrase Jan Lynch shared with us in a book that she has. Let whatever's ready to come, and whatever's ready to go, go. And it's a gentle thing. It can be absolutely exciting and remarkable. Is it happy, snappy for us? Are we going, yay? No.
No.
So, but it is necessary. It is time. And so we're going to be here. We're still going to be, I think we're each going to give at least one other talk before the end. And we'll see you all. So we're not saying goodbye now.
Yeah.
We're only letting you know, so that if there are questions and concerns that you have, and this is a process, when you're getting a new minister coming in, lots of change happens. And so you may have questions, you may have concerns, you may be worried or whatever. And please do not hesitate to send a note, an email to the board. And Frank said that they will try. No, the board has already made the commitment. If you send an email, they're going to respond to it. They're going to respond to it to deal with it, so that and then you will be getting weekly updates on what's happening.
Yes.
What's happening with the candidating process. So not to worry. It's all good. It's all good.
It's all in process. Our family has been after us for quite some time to retire, so we could go visit our children and our grandchildren, and now our great-grandchildren, and it's time for us to relax and do that. We're not going to be moving out of the area. We're planning on living right where we are, but it is necessary for us at this time in our lives to just take some time off. We love you all. Thank you very much. So let me just close this. Yeah, let me close this by saying a benediction. I know that there is a spirit that indwells within all living things. It is that creative energy of the universe. It is that creative energy that flows through and as all living things. All living things are that one. I know that the one truth that there is in the universe is change. Change is eternal. For the divine is evolving all of life in the most dynamic and wonderful ways. And that is the truth of Awakening Ways. Awakening Ways is this living entity that evolves in its own way. All of us are blessed to be part of it. We have been blessed to come, and we're blessed when we go. And I know for Awakening Ways and for each member of Awakening Ways that right now, today, is the beginning of a new unfolding purity and love. A new unfolding perfection for Awakening Ways and for each and every member of the community. We are all so blessed to be together. I have spoken my word of love, and Spirit knows that all is unfolding perfectly, for that is the divine pattern. And so I simply let go and say, and so it is. Amen.